Today we're making choripan, one of the most iconic street foods of Argentina, as well as parts of Chile, Brazil, and Uruguay. Now to make the chorizo, you want to have the proper ratio of meats. For Argentinian chorizo, I'm using 2 pounds of beef, 2 1/4 pounds of pork shoulder, and 3/4 pound of bacon ends, or just chopped bacon. I'm going to make sure that I cut the meat and bacon into chunks that can fit into my meat grinder. Then I'm going to mix with an ounce of salt, and I'm going to toss until every piece has a little bit on it. You want to let this sit in the fridge for a few hours, better if you can do it overnight. This helps develop myosin in the mixture, which helps the texture of the finished sausage. You're going to want to use your coarse grinder and run all the meat through. Then we're going to put it back in the fridge to chill. So once the meat is chilled and we're ready to start making our sausages, we're going to pour ourselves a glass of good Argentinian Malbec wine, and we're going to set aside 3/4 cup for our meat mixture. I'm going to make sure I taste my wine. I'm going to add about 5 teaspoons of coarse ground black pepper. And then on top of that, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of smoked paprika, 4 to 5 chopped garlic cloves, then we're going to add the wine to the meat mixture. And we're going to mix this really well with our hands. Remember, the meat is really cold, and a good indicator is that you're going to start feeling the cold in your hands. They're almost aching. So I'm going to need about 10 feet of hog casings, and I'm going to soak them in some warm water. Stuffing sausage is a lot easier when you have 2 people. One to fill the links and the other person to coil it, but I'm going to have to do this solo. We're going to keep stuffing the casings until we get our coil. We're going to make sure that we leave some rooms on either end so that we can tie them off. After that, we're going to start pinching off about 6-inch links with our fingers, and we're going to roll the sausage away from us a few times. The next link over, we're going to roll it towards us a few times. At this point, we just hang them for an hour or so to dry, but we can also do this overnight in the fridge. So now it's time to start making the French bread. To my mixing bowl, I'm going to add 2 1/4 cups of warm water and 2 tablespoons of sugar. To that, I'm going to add a tablespoon of instant or active dry yeast, and I'm going to allow that to bloom up. So I'm going to give it about 10 minutes to get foamy. Then I'm going to add 2 cups of flour to my mixture and about 3/4 tablespoon salt and start mixing it. We're going to keep adding flour until the dough forms. You can tell when it's ready when the dough starts forming a ball and it starts pulling away from the bowl. You'll see very little sticking to the bowl and most of the dough holding itself together. So at this point, I'm just going to lightly spray a mixing bowl with some olive oil, and I'm going to work my dough, and I'm going to place it in the bowl to lightly coat it with some oil. Then I'm going to go ahead and cover it loosely with saran wrap and a damp kitchen towel. Then I'm going to set it aside for about an hour. I'm going to let the dough proof, and it's going to double in size. So now I'm going to start making my chimichurri. I'm going to take about a cup of parsley and I'm going to mince it very fine. Then I'm going to take 3 to 4 cloves of garlic, peel them, mince them, and I'm going to add that to my parsley mixture. To that, I'm going to add half a cup of olive oil and 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar, a tablespoon of crushed red chili flakes, and a teaspoon of oregano that I'm going to crush up, as well as about a level teaspoon of coarse salt and some black pepper. Then I'm going to mix and stir this to combine, and I'm going to want this to allow it to sit for about 2 hours. I want all the flavors to release into the oil. The more time, the better. Taste it, and delicious. So now my dough is all proofed up. I'm going to go ahead and knock down the air that's in there, and I'm going to give it a few light punches. And then we're going to lightly flour our work surface. And we're going to empty the content of our bowl onto the work surface. Come on out. There we go. We'll go ahead and lightly work our dough, and we just want to divide it into 2 even sections. And we're going to set a section aside while we work. Now this is really easy to do to make our French bread, to shape it. All we're going to do is take a rolling pin and we're going to start rolling it out. We want to form a rectangle type shape. And this is going to make it a lot easier to work with once we have it kind of uniform. Basically, once we have our shape to where we want it, we're just going to roll it up like a newspaper. and then we're going to fold the ends up underneath each other. That way it kind of gives it that seamless look. Now the really important part to remember when we're doing our dough is that we're going to flip it over, and we want to make sure that we pinch the seams. We want to make sure these seams are sealed nice and tight, because when these things are baking, there's steam that's being created on the inside, and we don't want that steam escaping. Once that's ready, we're going to take a knife and we're just going to lightly score the top of both pieces. At this point, we're just going to cover it again loosely with saran wrap and the damp kitchen towel. And then we're going to set it aside till it about doubles in size. Now at this point, if you want to put an egg wash on, it'll give it a shinier, darker, deeper color to it. I want to get this rustic look, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it in the oven at 375 degrees. I'm going to let that bake for about 20 minutes. Now a trick is to put another pan in the oven, and here I'm dumping in some ice and I'm shutting the oven door. That way it allows steam to generate in the oven, and it's going to help give it that really nice, rich, crusty texture that we're looking for. Now the bread is ready, and voila! Look at that. You want to tap it to hear if it has a hollow thunking sound, and if it does, you know you're good to go. Now careful, because this bread is hot, so we got to transfer it to a cooling rack to allow it to cool off. I don't want it to start getting soggy or anything like that. And yeah, that's hot. But I'm impatient and I'm hungry and I've been working hard all day and I'm ready to get this done. Go ahead, cook up your chorizo however you want to. It was raining outside, so I had to do mine on a broiler instead of a grill, but that's okay because I'm starving. And now it's time to plate up. I'm going to split that chorizo and I'm going to put it on my fresh French bread. I'm going to give it a healthy slathering of chimichurri sauce. Man, this thing looks and smells delicious. Now the final test to see if it's just like I remember. And it is home run. Thanks again for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. See you next time.